Something unlikely happens when a battle-hardened former Marine living in isolation, rescuing wildlife during a forest fire, runs into a passionate marine biologist fighting to save the environment. Deep in the misty forests surrounding Olympia, Washington, Jason Miller has built himself a fortress of solitude. At 42, this former Marine carries invisible wounds from overseas missions that still haunt his sleepless nights. His weathered hands now guide weekend hikers instead of weapons, teaching survival skills from his remote cabin where the only sounds are wind through Douglas firs and his own carefully controlled breathing. 20 miles away, Sofia Chen dives into the cold waters of Puget Sound with the enthusiasm of someone who has found her calling. At 37, this marine biologist studies salmon populations with the dedication of a woman on a mission. Her research station buzzes with activity as she documents how climate change affects local ecosystems, her passion for environmental protection burning as bright as her infectious smile. Neither expects their worlds to collide until the September morning when wildfire smoke begins drifting through the valleys. The Cascade Creek fire starts as a small blaze but quickly spreads through drought-stressed timber, forcing evacuations across 3 counties. Emergency coordinators call Jason, knowing his military experience and local knowledge make him invaluable for organizing volunteer evacuations. Sofia receives the same urgent call from the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Hundreds of animals need rescue from the fire's path, and her expertise with local species makes her indispensable. She loads her truck with carriers and medical supplies, her heart racing with the urgency of lives hanging in the balance. The evacuation zone buzzes with controlled chaos as residents flee with whatever they can carry. Jason coordinates volunteer teams with military precision, his calm commands cutting through the panic. Sofia directs wildlife rescue operations, her voice steady despite the growing wall of orange flame visible through the smoke. Then, deep in a section of forest marked for evacuation, both hear it, a weak, desperate whimpering coming from beneath a fallen branch. Jason arrives first, his trained eye immediately assessing the trapped fawn, whose leg appears badly injured. Sofia appears moments later, her rescue kit already in hand. "I've got medical supplies," she says, dropping to her knees beside the frightened animal. "I can lift the branch," Jason responds, his voice rougher than he intended. Their eyes meet for the first time across the wounded deer, and something shifts in the smoky air between them. The makeshift animal shelter in the Olympia Community Center becomes their shared workspace over the following days. Jason finds himself returning again and again, officially to help coordinate supplies, but truthfully drawn by Sofia's unwavering dedication to every creature in their care. She works 18-hour days, monitoring the fawn, whom she names Hope with the tenderness of a mother. "You don't have to keep coming back," Sofia tells him one evening as they change Hope's bandages together. "I know you prefer the woods to crowds." Jason pauses, surprised by her perceptiveness. "These animals, they didn't choose to be in this situation. Neither did you, in whatever happened before," she says quietly, not pushing but offering understanding. Their conversations deepen as Hope slowly heals. Sofia shares her research about salmon migration patterns and how everything in nature connects, speaking with wonder about ecosystems Jason has walked through but never truly seen. He teaches her practical skills, how to read weather patterns, identify edible plants, navigate without GPS, knowledge that feels suddenly precious in her academic world. "You see the forest differently than I do," Sofia observes as Jason points out animal tracks invisible to her trained eye. "You see the big picture," he replies. "I just see pieces." But their growing connection faces its first real test when Sofia receives devastating news. A proposed hydroelectric dam project threatens to destroy 15 miles of pristine salmon habitat, including spawning grounds her research has spent years documenting. The developer's lobby has money and political connections. Environmental groups seem powerless against their influence. "We have to fight this," Sofia declares, her laptop open to protest planning websites and petition signatures. "There's a public hearing next month. If we can organize the community," Jason's expression hardens. "Public hearings, media attention, that's not gonna work. It's how democracy functions," Sofia argues, her voice rising with frustration. "People need to know what's at stake. People need to see results, not speeches," Jason counters. "And putting yourself in the spotlight like that." He trails off, old fears surfacing. Sofia stares at him. "You're afraid. The accusation hangs between them like smoke. Jason's jaw tightens, years of trained control warring with emotions he thought buried. I've seen what happens when good people trust the system, when they believe speeches and promises. So you'd rather do nothing? I'd rather not make things worse. Their first real fight leaves them both shaken. Sofia throws herself into organizing protests and media campaigns, working with environmental groups from Seattle to Portland. Jason retreats to his cabin, telling himself he's better off alone, that getting involved was a mistake. But hope continues healing, and neither can abandon the fawn who brought them together. Their visits to check on her become tense, professional exchanges that fool no one at the shelter. The situation escalates when developers begin preliminary surveys on the proposed dam site. Sofia organizes a peaceful demonstration, but Jason watches from a distance as protesters face off against private security guards. His military instincts scream warnings about crowd control and escalation tactics he recognizes from overseas deployments. When Sofia calls him that night, her voice shaking with anger and exhaustion, something inside Jason's carefully constructed walls begins to crack. They had dogs, she whispers, security dogs at a peaceful protest about salmon. Jason finds himself at her apartment an hour later, not entirely sure how he got there. Sofia opens the door with dirt still on her clothes and defeat in her eyes. Maybe you were right, she says. Maybe the system doesn't work. But looking at this woman who fights for creatures that can't speak for themselves, Jason realizes something has changed inside him. Her courage has awakened something he thought war had killed. What if we combined approaches? Jason asked the next morning, his voice careful but determined. Your knowledge of the science, my understanding of tactical planning. Sofia looks up from her coffee, hope flickering in her tired eyes. You want to help? I want to try something different. What emerges is an unconventional strategy. Instead of large protests that attract media attention and potential violence, they organize smaller, targeted actions. Jason uses his military planning skills to coordinate logistics, while Sofia focuses on education and community outreach. They identify key stakeholders, local business owners who depend on fishing tourism, Native American tribal leaders whose ancestors fished these waters, families whose children would inherit a damaged ecosystem. Rather than confronting the dam company directly, they build coalitions of people who have the most to lose. Working together 16 hours a day, they discover a rhythm that surprises them both. Jason's methodical approach balances Sofia's passionate advocacy. Her scientific knowledge gives weight to his strategic thinking. Slowly, their earlier conflict transforms into something deeper, mutual respect that grows into undeniable attraction. You're not the same person who wanted to avoid all this, Sofia observes one evening as they plan their next community meeting. Neither are you, Jason replies. You're thinking like a strategist now, not just an activist. The night before the crucial county council vote, they work until dawn, preparing final presentations. As the sun rises over Puget Sound, exhaustion and nervous energy create an intimacy neither expected. Whatever happens tomorrow, Sofia says softly, I'm glad the fire brought us together. Jason reaches for her hand, a gesture that would have been impossible months ago. So am I. The council chambers overflow with supporters they've quietly organized over weeks of careful coalition building. Instead of angry protesters, local fishing guides testify about economic impacts. Tribal elders speak about cultural heritage. Sofia presents her scientific data not as an abstract environmental issue, but as a community concern affecting real families. Jason doesn't speak publicly. The spotlight still feels dangerous, but his organizational work shows in every coordinated testimony, every perfectly timed presentation of evidence. When the council votes 4-3 against the dam project, the victory feels both enormous and quietly personal. Later, at the animal shelter, they release Hope back into the wild. The fawn that brought them together takes her first steps into freedom on legs that have fully healed, disappearing into the forest that will remain untouched. She's going to be fine, Sofia says, watching Hope vanish into the trees. So are we, Jason replies, and this time when he reaches for Sofia's hand, there's no hesitation in the gesture. As autumn settles over Olympia, two damaged people discover that healing sometimes comes not from hiding from the world, but from finding someone worth facing it with. In the quiet of Jason's cabin, surrounded by the forest they fought to protect, they begin writing a new story together, one where former Marines and marine biologists prove that the most unlikely partnerships can create the most powerful changes. Share your own unlikely love story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of romance, resilience, and the beautiful surprises.